Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back to stage 4 of the Giro d'Italia. For those of you perhaps getting home from work early, just tuning in, I'm afraid we've had a neutralisation of the stage so far by the riders, but it is drying up a little. We've had absolutely awful weather so far today. Very much the Irish weather has been brought back. Now, CMTS on Twitter saying that perhaps doubting that it's too dangerous to racing. Paris-Roubaix is very dangerous, but no go slow there. We're talking different styles of riders, different races, different approach to the race, and of course, different roads, Sean, which is what we really need to appreciate here, because these are city roads, technical roads. The style of racing is going to be very, very much more furious. There are GC ambitions over 3 weeks to think about. And of course, you already mentioned it, plenty of oil on roads that aren't used to getting rain.
Well, I think, first of all, Paris-Roubaix is a one-day race, and Paris-Roubaix is a special one. A 3-week tour. You can understand why the riders and the director sportifs also have decided not to race in the earlier part of this stage because of circumstances. The stage finishing on a circuit. If it had been, again, an A to B stage today, they would have raced right from the start. It's just 8 laps here, and we've just seen the riders coming through. I think in the final kilometre there's 5 corners, and if you had the wet conditions there, like, there'd be so many riders would be crashing out and maybe totally out of the race, and that's something I think the organisers well doesn't want. They don't want to lose 1 or 2 big favourites, lose some of the sprinters here, the sprinters that are left after Kittel going out sick this morning. So it's an agreement between everybody just for the safety of the riders and the 3-week tour, and try and get the riders through today. And there's many days where we will see spectacular racing to come.
If we do get a race towards the end, Sean, Marcel Kittel is out. A lot of British fans writing into us on Twitter talking up Ben Swift's chance. The Aussies, who we know are watching down under, thanks for staying up with us, by the way, and watching with us. They're of course talking up their pink jersey wearer Michael Matthews. Who would you see as the favourite, given the fact that maybe Buoni and Viviani as well as Swift the other day have been the closest so far?
Well, I think some of the other sprinters would come into the reckoning here. If it stays a little bit damp and a little bit more dangerous, and a battling, for example, I think he would be able to manage. We see him winning a stage in the wet conditions. Buoni, we all know Buoni, he can take a lot of risk. He's not afraid, he doesn't back off at all. Maybe Chichi might get a run at it here in the end with this technical run, but I think it's going to be a dry finish again, because it is drying up, and with the riders going over, the traffic in front of the race, commissars, the team cars follow, and that will help to dry out the roads. So I think we should have a dry finish at the end today.
Italia winning last year, very, very similar stage, in fact, in the rain, as Sean mentioned. Young rider who's shown himself to be very, very fast in the finish. And of course, it's worth noting as well that these riders are a little fresher today. They haven't done many kilometres. Remember, the sprint in Belfast came after almost 220 kilometres in the rain. A lot of wind as well. Dublin, it was almost 200 kilometres, awful conditions again. Windy, rainy. Today, the legs will be a bit fresher.
Yes, and the riders that we've mentioned, I think the shorter stage will definitely suit them, because the long distance, the tired legs in the end, that will also have a bearing today. So it's going to be an interesting sprint, no matter what the conditions. I think with Marcel Kittel out, there's a lot of other riders saying, well, now I can get a stage victory in this Giro.
Will Alessandro Petacchi be one of those men? He's not really contested the sprint so far, but there's a bit of a promise. There's a little carrot dangling in front of him. That carrot is to wear the pink jersey again for the first time since 2009. The last time he did that was actually, in fact, the last time before this weekend that a rider won 2 consecutive stages on the Giro. 2009, when Alessandro Petacchi won it in Trieste, where this race finishes. Then Valdobbiadene. At the weekend, it was Kittel. If Alessandro Petacchi comes first or second today, and Matthews doesn't get in on the bonus seconds, then of course he could take that pink jersey. And perhaps if he didn't have ambitions of sprinting but might feel well today, it's certainly a bit of a carrot dangled in front of him, isn't it?
Well, it's definitely a big carrot when you see the position he's in general classification, the possibility of getting into pink jersey and leader of the Giro at this stage in his career. Unfortunately for Pataki, this running today, I don't think he'll fancy with all these corners in the final kilometre. Even with Kittel out, there's so many guys here are prepared to take a bit more risk than Pataki. If it was a straightforward finish, a long 3 kilometre run into the finish, well then he definitely would have go for it, because if he could get up there and get some of the time bonifications, could find himself in the race leadership, which would be a fabulous end to his career. Whether he'll retire this year or next year, we don't know, but to wear the pink jersey in the Giro for an Italian, it's always a dream, even at the end of your career, and to finish off your career like that, it would be a great one for Pataki.
He's done it before. He's had the pink jersey back on a few editions of the Giro d'Italia. Remember, he's won the points jersey here, he's won the points jersey at the Vuelta, and more recently at the Tour as well. 2010, green jersey. Pataki has been a very special rider, an extremely special one indeed. This is the run-in. Turn after 900 metres to go. Italian financial police on the corner there. All sorts of different police corps in Italy. They all seem to wangle a day working at the Giro somewhere. There's Luke Durbridge on the right-hand side.
Just doing a test there in the corner. He seemed to go a little bit further ahead of everybody else, and so he must be the test man.
There you go, timeout called. Hang on a minute, let's slow down again. It's not quite fit yet, is it?
The tyres are not hot enough.
It's a bit like being a cricketer, football match. You see the referee going rolling the ball out there to see if it moves or not. Putting their thumb or even the car keys into a cricket pitch as well. Durbridge just putting the gas on into the corner, deciding it was still a little hairy. Straight up, saying, no guys, we're not going to bother yet. And there's the evidence. Oh, everyone can see now, that's better. Luke Durbridge, best young rider in the race so far. Feed zone coming up, and perhaps time for a natural break. No rush at the minute. Colombia taking on some bottles. 183 on the back. On the left-hand side is Gianpaolo Caruso. One of those Katusha riders hit the deck during the Irish stages earlier on this week. Valerio Agnoli in front of him. We saw him, actually, when we went to a break a little earlier on, shaking his head, moaning, and of course, not happy to be back in the rain. A lot of people have opened the bus door coming down to sign on today and go, oh no, not again. They were all looking forward to some warmth. In fact, Dario Cataldo, leading the Sky team, tweeted yesterday, seemed strange to be dry when he got off the plane. I'm afraid you spoke too soon, Dario. Teeming it down with rain at the start today. Well, we want to hear your thoughts on today's stage, the Giro. Any questions for Sean as we see a replacement wheel for, and even a replacement bike even, for one of the Astana riders. I think it is Gasparotto. It is Enrico Gasparotto. Remember, you can join our conversation on Twitter, hashtag Eurosport Cycling. Questions to Sean and myself at Rob Hatch TV. David James, another of those written in, just questioning the rider's commitment here, and we can't really emphasize enough how dangerous it can be out there on the road. Remember, 3 years ago, we lost one of our riders out there on the road at the Giro d'Italia, Volta Velon, who sadly passed away. Again, the weather conditions different, but rider safety is paramount. There's Paolo Tiralongo, another of those elder statesmen of the peloton, well into his 30s. He's helped ride Alberto Contador to numerous Grand Tour victories. A couple of years ago on the Giro, he even had his own shot at trying to win the pink jersey. In conversation with both commissaires and television, going back to the peloton to exchange his views. Do you think the situation's changing, Sean?
Well, I think it was getting much more aggressive there on the front of the peloton. We could see they were pushing on at quite a strong pace, and then we see Luke Durbridge, looked like he was just doing a test. Actually, I was, joking about it in the beginning, but he seemed to go around the corner with a bit more speed on, and decided that it was a little bit slippery all the time. And it's difficult from our shots here from camera. It's a little bit damp all the time. Sometimes we see it looks very, very shiny okay there. It looks like it's very wet, but there's definitely a lot of discussion going on here. We can see with the commissars, with Pataki, with the other riders, as you can see, and they're all grouped across the road now, so the racing has slowed down. They're not as aggressive as they were earlier on this circuit.
Keith Roswell says, why don't they get the jet dryers out like in NASCAR? I wasn't actually aware they did that, but wouldn't be a bad idea on a circuit today, but I doubt if down in Bari they have the budget for that at the minute. Well, come on and have a word. Luca Paolini's turn now. We've spoken to Tiralongo, we've spoken to Betacchi. It's all the elder statesmen of the Italian-speaking peloton, of course, speaking to the commissar, and this is where cycling is such an interesting mix of democracy and hierarchy in the peloton as well. Democratic in the way that, of course, everybody's opinion seems to count, but of course there's still a real hierarchy in that it's not necessarily the elected leaders, it goes by age and experience, and certainly by where you're riding, because here it's all the Italian riders who are doing the talking, Sean.
Yes, it seems to be, although I think Ulrika Greenedge also, have a little bit of a say here, but it seems to be the Italian riders, of course, speaking to the commissars. For the Italian riders, they can communicate much more easily, so that is the reason, but there is the information being relayed between the riders here on the front from all the teams, from all the different nationalities, and we could see there Tiralongo, he was radioing back to his car immediately after speaking to the commissar, so it looks like that at the moment they're not prepared to race, and it seems that they have decided, for me, that it's just too dangerous for the moment. It's not dried out fully, and that is the danger point. If you get just one little patch as you come into a corner, your tyre gets a little bit damp, and from experience you slide out so much quicker, and you push a little bit as well. You see the dry road, you feel it, but when your tyre gets a little bit wet, well, then you can just go flying off, and I think there is still quite a few wet patches, damp patches out there.
Pataki and Matthews in conversation. Matthews was a kid watching Pataki win his first stages. A lot of years between them. Lampre now coming to have a word or two. Matthews is shaking his head. It looks as though a few of the riders from a few of the teams might be asking the question, why aren't we racing it? Lampre being one of those teams. Shake of the head from Matthews, and in the meantime I think the commissaires were poking at them saying, OK boys, it's time to race now. Katusha responding with a big shake of the head as well.
Yes, and we can see that there was Perito there coming to the front. And if, there's certainly riders who would like to race out there, because this stage, as we mentioned, the shortest road stage of the Giro, and some guys, the 100 kilometres, a little bit over, they can race so strong and they can sprint so well at the end of it. Unfortunately for them, they were probably, peaking out this stage before they come to the Tour of Italy, and unfortunately the thing is going to be neutralised. So there's a lot of riders for and against here.
This is where we talk about that experience being important, and this is going to play a big part in it. We've seen the technical nature of the circuit. We've seen how dark it's gone again here. Yes, we're between buildings, but the sky has gone darker. The road is still visibly very, very slick on the run into the finish. And at the minute, we're seeing the back of the peloton. Don't get excited yet. This isn't any kind of breakaway. That's Leo Duque going back towards the peloton. Some riders still with a couple of rain jackets on here, so the odd spot of rain coming down. We're seeing drier parts to the road in certain parts of the cities. A few of us just asking, a few people asking on Twitter if the Tour de France has ever been neutralised like this. Yes, of course, for a lot of different reasons. Neutralisations, protests, all part of the rich tapestry of history on the Tour de France and the Giro d'Italia. We mentioned that Milan stage in 2009. Again, it was traffic islands on what was a beautiful weather day then that caused the problems there. And tram tracks as well, I think, was a big issue that day in Milan. A lot of old trams still go through the cities. It was a dangerous course. They didn't like it. The organisers didn't want to change it. Remember, they were the days of Angelo Zomignan, pardon me, a very, very stubborn organiser who liked to put very difficult courses on, and he was given a big thumbs down that day. Conversations continue. A few hands start raised. I think Nasser Bouhanni's pretty keen to race. Shakes his head again. As you mentioned, Sean, he's one of those guys that perhaps doesn't think of much about his own safety. He's a big boxer, remember?
Yes, and I think he's a guy who can take risk, and he's as you said, not afraid at all, and his bike handling is probably really good. And we've seen him, come down quite a few times, but you have to, I suppose, consider the peloton on a whole, and the general classification, all of that you have to consider here. But that's something we're not exactly sure what happened here when they came through the finish first time here in Bari. We were under the understanding that it was going to be the time taken for the general classification. I reckon that is the case, and then we were expecting some racing, but again, they don't seem to want to take it on here, and a lot of discussion still going on.
Petacchi is in the black there, by the way, the Italian rider. We've just cut to a shot of Svein Tuft. Petacchi seems to say, no, we're not racing. Matthews again. And here's Luca Paolini having a word. BMC, looks like they want to push on as well. Is that Manuel Quinziata having a word as well? First signs of disharmony really in the peloton. We saw everybody pretty much in agreement at the start, didn't we?
Well, it looked like that they were slowing down totally there, and were they going to stop totally and stop racing altogether? And that's something which I think they cannot do. They have to continue on riding, at least do the number of laps which was to be done right from the beginning, and if they're going to be a sprint in the end, well, we'll have to wait and see.
We're going to find out what's happening. Off for a commercial break. See you again. Can't clear too much up. Again, we seem to be neutralised here on the way around Bari. 8.3 kilometre circuit today. We've had awful weather conditions at the start. The races, well, it looked as though it was going to be on. We saw a fast lap. We saw a few attempts at going out. Now, Bernie Eisel wants to talk to the commissaires. In the meantime, we're hearing through our producers at Eurosport headquarters that when the bell rings for the final lap, we're going to take the general classification times from that. So any differences on the final lap will not count. That means that anybody who wants to stay safe and stay out of contesting the stage can ride in at their own pace and get out of the way. That could make it safer. Bernie Eisel there having a chat with the commissaire, and I wonder if the commissaire thought that he was in for a political job at the start of the day. It's almost like he's negotiating a ceasefire or something.
Yes, and there's a lot of uncertainty. We can see that before we went to our break. A lot of riders talking, and some riders want to push on, other ones want to slow the race down. And this is going to be a difficult one, because if you race to the lap, to the bell, or into the final lap, it's going to be a very dangerous one, and that's the reason that some of the teams are concerned. And especially Ulrika Greenedge, I think, first of all, they were talking about having the first time through here. Now it's going to be, the penultimate time through the finish area. So a little bit uncertainty for the moment.
We're being told now, Sean, that all the riders have to finish the last lap, so they have to ride on and ride in. There will be no time bonuses at all, either at intermediate sprint or at the finale. So it sounds as though, from the message that we're getting now, which we're told is official, that the race direction, the race commissaires have listened to the riders' concerns, and they're almost trying to barter with them into getting them to race a bit here.
Yes, there's a lot of dealing going on here at the moment, and the problem is, of course, we did talk about the time being taken as they come through the finish line, first time over the finish line, going to do the 8 laps. Now it's going to be as the bell at the bell lap, so 1 lap to go, and that's the concern for a lot of riders here and a lot of teams, because it's still not perfect for racing, but it is getting better, finishing the race, I'd not be concerned about that, because the riders, I think they would all ride around for the number of laps. That if the time is taken with the first time through the finish line as you get onto the circuit, everybody would ride around anyway, because in the stage race that was the understanding, so that is nothing new. But now the time being taken later, that's the concern for a lot of teams here and a lot of riders.
Ulrika Greenedge with Tom de Gent at the front, racing and riding. Team car required. So rider Heystal. Still got his rain jacket on, Garmin, and understandably worried because they're a team that already lost 2 riders. They lost their leader, Dan Martin. They also lost Calder Fernandez. Would have been an important man today for Tyler Farrell. So the pace has been picked up again ever so slightly. I wonder if that little agreement from the commissaires, the words got back and they've accepted that here.
Well, I think the commissaires, they're just going to have to accept it, but the riders are not accepting it very well. Some of the riders are not accepting it too well in the teams, and it'll be interesting now to see, will they continue on riding in a group until we get to, you know, the bell, or will there be some attacks early? And that is going to be the problem. Surprised if we would see that the peloton will ride around until they get the bell and then race from there, because that would be a very late stage in the race.
Certainly would be. Cast your mind back again, Sean, to your long and illustrious career. This sort of thing has happened throughout the history of cycling. Were you ever involved in protest incidents yourselves? What are your memories of them, if so?
Well, I was involved in a number of occasions. In the early part of my career, when I did my first Tour of France, of course, we remember with Bernardino there was a strike, which was one of the first ones maybe in the Tour of France, where there was double stages on a number of days, and they decided to do a strike at the end of the second stage, and the last couple of 100 metres we got off and walked, and the riders weren't happy that we had to do 2 stages in the day, so we're starting at 8:30 in the morning, then finish the second stage in the evening time, maybe at 7 o'clock, and Eno and Freddie Martins and a number of, again, you know, the known riders, the leaders of the teams, they just went to the front of the group and slowed things down. And we had been, you know, riding at a very casual pace right through the stage. We understood, all the riders understood, that the race was going to be, you know, neutralised, and we were going to stop and walk the last 150 metres to the line. And you know, we've seen many times since, and somebody inquired about whether they ever won the Tour of France. We remember in Luxembourg there, not so many years ago, there was a big crash, and there was maybe 40 riders went down, and Cancellara, he went to the front and slowed everything down, and the stage was, you know, neutralised from the time of that crash, which was in the final 15 kilometres.
Yeah, I think 2011 maybe, 2010, when that happened in the Tour. Quite recently, wasn't it? I tend to think 2010, I think. 43.1 kilometres to go. Orica Greenedge riding at the front, still not a full pace being put on. Riding around Bari today, so much history down here. In fact, this town has been in existence since the 3rd century BC. Apparently was in an alliance with Hannibal back in the day down then. It has been taken over, dominated by, of course, the Romans, the Saracens, the Byzantine Empire as well. Normans even got down here so far. The Swabian and the Angevin rule as well. This is an extremely historic part of the Mediterranean, and a strategic part as well, if you think that it really is the gateway to the Adriatic Sea, all the way up the coast of Venice. The Venetian Empire, so famous as well, and a big trading post with the East back centuries and even thousands a year ago. Into the last 1.4 kilometres here, we're going to get our latest look at the run-in. Check on the status of the roads. They're going a little quicker, nice and strong out here, and may again just be for safety reasons.
Yes, well, it's for safety reasons, and when you look at the run-in here, and in the Tour of Italy the last number of years, like, these finishes are very dangerous. In dry conditions they're majorly dangerous, and I've asked myself on a number of times, you know, how are they allowed to do that, to have such a technical finish of a big tour with almost 200 riders. The UCI, I think, you know, have to do something about that, because some of those finishes, you know, are not good enough and not safe enough for the welfare of the riders.
The welfare is the important thing. I know a lot of you frustrated that you're not seeing some real racing here, but of course put yourselves in the shoes and onto the saddles of these riders' bikes. Racing is an extremely dangerous business. It's an extreme sport, as it is cycling. You can understand that, yes, not everybody's in agreement here. Of course, we don't want any accidents, and of course protection for these guys' lives and well-being is the most important thing. This is 600 metres to go. Sean talked about the technical nature of it. You can see the road is bumpy. It's not the greatest road surface, and of course any northern Italians watching will spark up a lot of argy-bargy between the north and south in Italy. They don't particularly get on well politically, and of course not as much economic impact in the south of Italy as well, which means there isn't as much money to repair the roads and the infrastructure. It is natural, it is normal. And this is particularly the reason why the Giro d'Italia seems to get into the south and out very quickly. It is not easy at all to organise races down here. But one thing is true when we come to the south, we do get fantastic crowds everywhere. They love the Giro d'Italia down here. And we're seeing it today, and these fans have to be respected by the riding being done. 41 Ks to go. Got to ride to the finish at this stage. Got to at least give the fans on the side of the roads a good view of their heroes. They've waited all year for this, ever since the announcement was made back in the autumn. Giro d'Italia coming to Bari for a stage finish for the first time in 24 years. Gianni Bugno winning last time we were down here. It was actually the Grande Partenza in 1990. The big start that we just had in Ireland. We were here in a couple of times before the First World War as well, with Carlo Galetti and Giuseppe Azzini winning. Azzini winning back-to-back stages here in 1913 and 1914. Alfredo Binder's always won down here as well, 1925 and 1927. Of course, another very, very famous winner of a stage in Bari in 1961, Jacques Anquetil, the Frenchman as well. Luke Durbridge again at the front. Remember, it was he who called the latest time out, much to the anger of some who were back in the peloton. The fighting seems to have calmed down at the minute. Political wrangling, let's call it. But we've seen who the bosses are. Now then, this is interesting. A couple of riders coming up to the front. Neri Sottoli with a few riders in there, getting ready to be involved if the time comes. It was Mauro Finetto. And if finally there is a decision to take some racing on here, you can bet your life on Neri Sottoli being the first to attack. Either they, Bardiani or Androni, I think. Colombians have shown that they have been very, very proud to show off the jersey. In fact, Rubiano quoted in the press after his break the other day, he knew he wasn't going to get anything apart from TV coverage there, but he wanted to honour the jersey, show off his jersey, the national champions jersey of Colombia. Had a good result in the sprint as well. Edwin Avila getting his first Giro top 10 into Dublin the other day. Well, we're getting a few more tweets in, Sean, and again, perhaps just for the benefit of those who are joining us, a lot of people having a real go at the riders here, saying that they're being cheated, that Paris-Roubaix is worse. Again, this is different racing, Sean, isn't it? Very, very different. This isn't Paris-Roubaix, it isn't a one-day race. We've seen fatalities in recent years on the Giro. The state of the roads down here is very, very different as well. And from that dry to wet, again, unless perhaps you see the riders going past at 50+ k an hour as they would be here on a circuit race, it's hard to get appreciation on the TV from the pictures here of the real speed they go and the dangers they face, isn't it?
Yes, and first of all, I think the organisers, you know, they were always worried about if they did get a wet condition, a wet day, it would be a problem with the riders. But it rained so little down here, they took the risk and went out and, you know, had this circuit here in Bari, which they'll do 8 times, and a very dangerous final number of kilometres. Unfortunately, just for the organisers, weather conditions turning wrong, and I'd not be surprised that the organisers were expecting, you know, if the riders to go on strike and to try, you know, not to race here full on. And you can understand why. It's a 3-week tour. You know, you prepare so much, months and months of preparation, and you can, you know, get caught up in a crash on this finishing circuit here, and not alone, you know, go out of the Giro, but also maybe destroy your season. So I can understand rightly why the teams and the riders want, you know, to neutralise the stage, and of course, yes, the spectators, they want to see a show here, they want to be a spectacle, but we must always remember the safety of the situation. And I would air again, you know, if it had been a normal stage, which stage racing is all about, you go from A to B, you don't have this circuit at a finish to get about, and if that was the case, we would have it racing today. But unfortunately, weather conditions came on the wrong day, where we had to do a very technical and a very dangerous circuit here in Bari. 37.3 Ks to go on stage 4 of the Giro d'Italia. And
We're told that the forecast isn't great for tomorrow, but as Sean was saying, it could be a different kettle of fish there. Certainly first few climbs involved as well, and I'd be very surprised if 2 days running the riders would risk the wrath of the organisers. This, as Sean was explaining there, a very, very different kettle of fish. It's almost Kermesse racing, really, in and around the city of Bari. We're getting a beautiful view of Bari Vecchia there. There's the castle, used down all of those centuries. Orica Greenedge still at the front. Trek Factory Racing starting to do some riding, as are Cannondale. Suggests that things could be slightly changing. Lampre riders at the back. We haven't really seen Roberto Ferrari much today. I think if you want to stay upright, stay away from him today on these roads. Has a reputation for cutting across the line, surfing the wheels. Yeah, not one of the most popular sprinters out there. This is the point where they go 3 kilometres from the finish. Trek Factory Racing there. Managed to place Giacomo Nizzolo well into the sprints. From what you've seen us on the riding so far, Sean, we've seen 2 excellent wins from Marcel Kittel, but I think you could probably pick holes out of the lead-out being done by Giancimone. It hasn't been a perfection. The team has been saved, really, by some excellent efforts from Kittel in the end. And the strong teams we've seen in the lead-out have been the likes of Cannondale, Trek and Sky, even.
Yes, I think Giant Shimano, the team, they have fielded here. Of course, they have to split the team at this time, whether, you know, taking part in 2 races. And we did see the 2 stages that Kittel won back in Ireland, that they just ran out of power in the final and just weren't able to take him to the point where he can just, you know, take up his sprint. They were always losing out at a kilometre and a half to go. But I'd not be concerned with that, because when you split a team, well, then it's difficult. You're missing a lot of your real experienced, you know, real good lead-out men. But Kittel on super form, he was able to just, you know, get himself out of that difficulty on both occasions and win. But you can get away with that here, because you don't have maybe all the big sprinters. But again, you know, all teams, I suppose, they have a little bit of a, you know, a diluting of the team, because they're preparing on 2 fronts at the one time.
Asher Desert rider going back to the cars. It's Julien Berard. 4 minutes 29 down. Asher Desert in that brown and white jersey of theirs. French team have had a great start of the year. Frances Desjeux as well. Waiting to see them with Nasser Bouhanni. They may feel that they definitely have much more of a chance of winning a stage now. Certainly a bit of a different dynamic now, Sean. This is stretched out. Cannondale starting to ride on the front, looking better for the action.
Yes, and of course there will be teams who want to, you know, up the pace a number of laps out, and as we come to the 4 laps to go, the teams want to, you know, push on a bit, because if you leave it go too late, well then it's not going to be as easy as, you know, to push on the front, and you haven't got the time. Of course, we can see it's Cannondale here who are really lining it out at the moment, and you know, they have quite a few sprinters. You know, we have seen Viviani very much up there, but they also have other ones as well. You know, Moser, who can sprint quite well, so they have a few cars to play here. And of course, with the big sprinter gone from the race, well then it changes a lot for some of those teams.
This is looking good for racing, finally. And it's good for the crowd as well. Intermediate sprint coming up. Well, we were told by the organisers that there were going to be no time bonuses here. I wonder if all the riders have got that message. There will certainly be points, perhaps. It certainly looks as though they think there's going to be points anyway, because Nizzolo's trying to set this up. Swift is coming through as well for Team Sky. Ferrari is there as well. Viviani goes across first, so we understand where to get confirmation of that. TV there means traguardo volante, or intermediate sprint in English, and We're either getting conflicting reports from the race radio, race organisers, or the peloton not entirely sure that there was no time bonuses there.
Yes, I think there's a confusion there, and it's not surprising, you know, with everything that's been going on. Things we've heard earlier on, you know, they were going to finish the time taking as they come onto the circuit. That changed now. It's going to be at the bell, and again here for the sprint, you know, the riders, we could see Cannondale really pushing on and wanting to go to get the time bonus here. The question is now, is the time bonus on or is it off? And it's not surprising at all when you get a situation like this, when the riders go on strike and they neutralise the stage, all sorts of confusion. And we remember last year in the Tour of France when we had that problem with the Orica Green Edge bus in Corsica. It got stuck under the finish, then they were having to finish 3 kilometres out, then, you know, 5 minutes later they were going to the original finish, and the riders, some riders thought they were finishing 3 kilometres, other riders got the information that was going to be the normal finish, so there was total confusion, and there's a bit of that here again today.
Viviani coming across first, Nizzolo in there, as was Ferrari as well. Ramon Carretero at the back as Luke Durbridge pulls on the front for Orica Green Edge. This is going a little faster now. Perhaps there were points, as Peloton Watch suggests there. Certainly our graphics department suggests, but no bonus seconds. Viviani, Nizzolo and Ferrari was the official order. We're getting a view overhead of the Italian champion, Ivan Santaromita. Oh, still a lot of you at home watching unhappy at the neutralisation of the race. A lot of people saying the safety argument doesn't stick, and again, it's very difficult to criticise these guys unless you're in their shoes, to be honest. Certainly understand the frustration of anybody watching. A lot of people comparing it to the Bradley Wiggins incident last year when he fell, but I think, Sean, that the racing was certainly already on that day then, wasn't it?
It was certainly on. They were racing, you know, from the word from the kilometre zero, and
again, it wasn't a technical circuit like this either.
No, it wasn't a technical circuit at all, and you know, unfortunately Bradley Wiggins did crash with many others, and we see that was, you know, a bit of a hectic day for the riders and the teams. And as I mentioned earlier, I think we would have seen racing if it had been a normal stage, but here with the circuit finish, that's what's caused the problems. And you know, the earlier part of the day, it was so bad here. The road was just soaking wet, and you know, very, very slippery conditions. It has dried out, and we still have a bit of confusion here with the teams, but I'm not surprised that they're, you know, trying to control things and just not race fully here on this sort of circuit, although it is getting safer, but I think it's just drying out that bit too late.
Jose Herrada, the back brother of the Spanish champion Jesus, Valerio Agnoli. Remember, he crashed on his way into Dublin the other day. That's the number 2 for Astana. Orica Green Edge. So we'll trust our graphics department and suggest that the points were indeed handed out there. They were certainly competed for by Viviani, Nizzolo and Ferrari. Orica doing most of the controlling and a lot of the bartering and politicking today. This is that area where the team buses are parked, where bidons have been given out all day long. There's a couple of stray bidons there that luckily I think most of our riders managed to avoid. Just sits around 5Ks from the finish. A few bidons being given out because nothing allowed in the final 20K, of course. This Svein Tuft, just in conversation with Luke Durbridge in the white best young riders jersey, looking after it for Michael Matthews, who's wearing the pink leaders jersey. Yellow jerseys, perhaps looking for Francesco Chicchi, as you suggested, Sean, for Neri Sottoli. A couple of those at the front. Will we see Kenny de Haas involved at the end as well? Another fast man. Tinkoff Saxo in their yellow and blue. They just want to keep Nicholas Roach safe after a solid start, won't they?
Yes, and it's going to be the same situation as we have seen in the earlier stages, where the teams now are going to start taking their team leader to the front and keep them out of danger, up to the point where the time will be taken for the overall classification. And we can see that's happening, because you can see groups of riders from the same team coming up, and with 28.6 kilometres to go, we're going to see more of that. You can see Perazzi here sitting on the rear. Stefano Perazzi, we'll see a lot of him in this race.
Over the next 2 days, maybe.
He is the one who certainly is going to be in the breakaways. He won the mountain classification last year. From getting in breakaways, and very impressive on a number of the breakaways, the way he was performing, and we will see a lot of him as we get further into this Giro.
Barry Castle again. Can't wait to see Perazzi attacking. I'm sure he's got stage 6 finish up to Monte Cassino earmarked. 8-kilometre climb at the end of it. Not too difficult, suits him down to the ground. We shall see. I think a lot of riders will be watching his wheel on the way into Monte Cassino on stage 6 on Thursday. Tomorrow we go to Viggiano. Today we are in Bari. Giro d'Italia finally in Italy after a great start in Ireland, both north and south of the border. Public out there. And again, great to see so many people out on the roads in the centre of Bari as well today. Working day as well today, remember everybody. Stefano Perazzi, the man you were talking about, Sean, in the black top with the green shorts on. Obviously not planning on doing too much today, not his day, of course, on the flat. And he's still got his rain jacket on. Y56 there is Cameron Meyer. Not a good day for him on Sunday. Crashed, and he lost a heck of a lot of time. 13 minutes 42 down. And if Orica Greenedge were going to have a go at the overall, it would have probably been with that man, wouldn't it?
Yes, and it doesn't look good the way he's sitting on the rear there. I think he's carrying a little bit of the injuries from the crash, and where he is hanging, it doesn't look good for the moment. Hopefully in the next couple of days that he can recover. And as we talked about the crashes we had in the earlier days, sometimes you can get up, get back on your bike, but not feeling any injury, but the following day, 2 days later, you can be very sore, and you can feel terrible from just a very normal crash.
Paolini being close to the front again on a day you'd normally expect to see him at the back. Played the Kofi Annan role today. Chief UN negotiator within the peloton. Well, a couple of you tuning in later, perhaps getting home from work and asking what has caused the go slow here. Jay Podester on Twitter being one of those. Remember, you can get your questions to Sean before the end of this stage. Hashtag Eurosport Cycling at Rob Hatch TV as well. Well, we've had awful weather conditions right at the start. Very slippery, slick roads. A lot of people mentioning the Florence World Championship last year, the Giro, but of course this is a completely different day. This is a circuit race with roads that aren't used to taking rain. I can say I've lived in Florence. It rains a lot up there and they're used to the rain. This is pretty nasty stuff in Bari. Of course, we've got those differences between wet and dry as well. Oil on the road that hasn't been washed off for months, perhaps. And a very early day in the Grand Tour. The peloton not wanting to take too many risks. Another problem is, of course, is that it's started to dry out. Then we've had a couple of spots of rain, started to dry out again. And once they get into this mode, Sean, you said it very well, there's confusion, and even if we do start racing, it becomes a little safer. It's a little late because it's hard to get the message across, isn't it?
Yes, well, it is difficult to get the message across, and exactly what's happening. And we did see the confusion with the intermediate sprint there already, and we were talking earlier that they were going to take the time at the entrance to the circuit. Now it's at the bell, so it's changing all the time, and I'm not surprised when you start out a day like that, it just goes on, and there's a lot of confusion floating about. And the disappointing thing is that we're not going to see racing here. If we had real normal conditions which we would be expecting here, dry, warm conditions, well then we would have seen some fabulous racing on this circuit here, but we're not going to see that. We're going to see very little of it in the final lap.
Orica Green Edge then, putting them on with 25 kilometres to go. 3 laps will remain here. 8.3 kilometre circuit. Svein Tuft on the front, stringing it out, trying to make it safe for everybody. This run-in is a problem in itself. We've seen several little bits of potholes, and this is where, funnily enough, the road is at its slickest on the court, I think, right on the final kilometre. Three laps to go then, racing around the city of Bari. Good to see the pink on the roads again. Katusha and BMC keeping their men safe at the front. .3 Ks to go. Kevin Hayes says it wouldn't happen in the Onpustras. Again, slightly different road conditions up there, and of course they're very much used to the rain.
Well, the roads are very washed, very well washed back in Ireland. It's not anything you can compare here. As we said earlier, like, you know, many months without rain here on occasion. So when you get the rain, and it takes a long time for it to clean off, and it really dries off before ever it washes off. So that is the good thing here, but you cannot compare the conditions.
Luke Durbridge in that white jersey at the front. He's with 5 other members, pardon me, of his Orica Green Edge team. Santa Romita is there, as is the pink jersey holder and the leader of the race, Michael Matthews, just having a chat with a colleague from Tinkoff Saxo and a compatriot, Mick Rogers, who's back in the peloton after his enforced period of absence. So that was Michele Scarponi then on the motorbike. He's got a similar eagle on his helmet as well. The eagle of Filetrano, he's called. In the peloton today, and I think he'll be happy to continue recovering. 101 is winner Ancona. Second in the Colombian Road Race Nationals this year. We saw the Colombian champion out there on the road earlier on today, and you can just see very, very dark clouds down the road again. I'm afraid the rain might come back here, just as when we thought it was drying out, and we might get a bit of racing on the final circuit. We'll have to just see. 205 comes onto your screen. Paweł Poljanski, one of the Polish riders. And there's the King of the Mountains on the left. Blue jersey, the Dutchman Martin Chalingi. 395 kilometres of breakaway riding so far. It's been a great effort for him on this opening weekend, hasn't it? And Belkin have taken a superb prize in taking the King of the Mountains jersey until now. He's got a comfortable lead, and if he can get himself away once more in the next couple of days, he's got a good chance of holding on to it for a few more days, hasn't he?
Yes, well, today, of course, no counting for the mountain classification, so he holds on there, and if he can maybe get into the breakaway tomorrow and mark some more points, he could maybe increase on that. But it's been a fabulous start for Chalingi and for Belkin. You know, he's been out there getting a lot of exposure for the team and getting a jersey in this Giro for whatever amount of time he will hold on to it.
Well, I mentioned the next few days. Where do we head? Up north. We said that the Giro seems to get in and out of the south of Italy fairly quickly. Bari to Viggiano tomorrow. On the west-hand side into Basilicata. Through the centre of Italy. There's Albertima with a front-wheel punchy, just getting that replaced. In the end, he needs a back wheel as well. Finally sorted out what the problem was. And Albertima, 3 minutes and 6 seconds down, his first Giro d'Italia, 4 pro victories. Of course, he's been a pro for the best part of a decade now. Strong valued rider in what is a very good Giant Shimano team. There are those black nasty clouds I was talking about. Good to see Garmin riding at the front. I was saying we go to Viggiano and Monte Cassino, 2 medium mountain stages this week. Then another pretty nailed-on sprint day to Foligno. Montecopiolo and Sestola, well, that's going to change things slightly as we go a little further into the medium mountains. But the real strong mountains begin at the end of next week, when we'll show you the whole stage almost. Saturday, join us from the end of the morning, Allier to Oropa, very, very close to the town of Biella. And then the day after that, we're up at Plan di Montecampione, famous down the years in Giro history. Sure, we mentioned the Onpus Ras a couple of moments ago. Rider in a race in Ireland, of course. We're being asked by an Irish cycling fan, Stuart Laverty, whilst we have time to talk about it here, of course. What do you think about the possibility of the Ras becoming a 2.1 race?
Well, I think it's growing in stature every year. It's one of the oldest races on the calendar. The problem is you get county teams and club teams taking part, and there's already a bit of difficulty there with that, because you get teams who are continental teams based in Europe, like the on-post chain reaction team, and racing at a higher level, and you get 5 or 6 of those teams taking part. So it's difficult for the club and county teams to be competitive against those riders. If you go up to the next level, well, then you're going to lose that county and club team. They'll not be able to compete at all, and that is the difficult one. So for the organisers, I think it's a difficult decision to make. I don't know if there's a possibility of moving up, but at the moment, I think it's a real good race for the Irish scene, for the domestic scene. It's a very good one because all can take part.
Talking of moving up, Sean, how's it going with the team? We're going to get any bigger Onpus chain reaction cycles?
Well, we're always on the lookout, and we've had discussions in the past 2 years, and we're still carrying on them at the moment. We're in discussion with sponsors. We would like to move up to Continental Pro, but it is a big step up. It's budget-wise, it's a quite a bigger budget. So we'll have to wait and see. And sponsorship, from an Irish point of view, the economy in Ireland is only recovering from the down years. So that's also making it a bit more difficult, but our objective is to move up. Will it be this coming year, or will it be in a number of years' time? We'll just have to wait and see.
Marco Canola with a problem. Back wheel change for him. Did a few punctures on the circuit, and we could see in the shot there, as we see Albert Tima again, getting the front wheel sorted, then the back wheel. We've seen rain in the distance. There we go, having to stop twice. Talk of bad luck. Good job the race isn't on. Is an important cog in that giant machine, and although they have 2 wins, that machine hasn't been working as they would have liked to work over the opening few stages. Now without Marcel Kittel, I understand that a few of you are joining us late. We will repeat that he has retired from the race. He did not start the race today. He unfortunately has a fever. He's picked up a cold between those rainy stages in Ireland and the long, long plane journey, 3 hours plus, down to Bari yesterday. Orica Green Edge then. Française des Jeux showing themselves towards the front. Each and every one of the teams seems to more or less be in formation here. Katusha on the left-hand side in the red and white. The Russian team riding for their Catalan leader, Joaquim Rodriguez. On the podium just about everywhere. Grand Tour win evades him so far. Edwin Avila making his way up for Colombia as well. Nervous hunt for placings as the pace gets faster. Daniele Colli is the man at the back, 1:35. Italian rider riding for Neri Sotoli. They will be hoping for something from Francesco Chicchi. We'll go through here. We won't quite take the bell yet. There'll be 2 laps to go when we come through the finish line. And as we understand it, as the bell rings for the start of the final laps, we're going to get the GC times for the day taken. Any time losses on that final lap, although we're told by the organiser that everybody has to finish that final lap, but any time differences will not count towards the overall general classification. So 1 lap to go before that happens. Svein Tuft, pink jersey wearer on stage 2, takes into that shake of the head from Agnoli, who's now up the front. There's some Andre Seitz riding there close to Scarponi and Tiralongo as well. Tiralongo involved in some of the negotiations earlier on today. Listen to this. Don't often get to see the Giro in Bari. They had it much more often down the years. First time since 1990 we're going to have a stage finish here. The love for the national race, a national treasure in an event. You get people watching the Giro simply aren't interested in cycling. They follow it every single day, whether it be on the radio, on the television, or in the column inches of the newspapers. This race linked to the history of a region and a nation. So 2 laps to go. We've had neutralisations today. The road continues to dry out. A little slick on that final lap. Finally on the final lap, we're hoping to get some sort of racing. So who will we be thinking of for the stage win now that Marcel Kittel's not here? We have Davide Apollonio, Enrico Battaglin, the likes of Nasser Bouhanni and Viviani, along with Swift will probably be the favourites. Nizzolo has been sprinting very well. We saw Ferrari in that intermediate sprint taking points. Kenny de Haas, Tyler Farrer even as well, who won just around the corner to Bitonto a few years back. He was very much a different sprinter then. Edwin Avila placed well the other day too. Alessandro Petacchi, how will he be feeling? Well, he hasn't contested a sprint yet in this Giro d'Italia. Pace visibly increased. Riders will just have to be wary here, Sean, that there are no little splits coming through the bell the next time.
Yeah, sorry, they will have to be careful here, and we can see here the teams are forming, and they have been over the last 2 laps to keep their general classification in good position. It'll be interesting now as we go to the bell at the point where the times will be taken for the overall classification. Will they be attacked? Will they be capable of attacking? Because it's going to be a very, very fast going into the final lap, and over 8 kilometres, it's difficult to see anybody able to get out of this group because they've been racing very, very casual, short stage, so it's going to be a really fast final lap. So to get away out of the peloton, it's going to be an impossible task, I think.
A lot of teams as well still have a lot of strong men, not many tired legs out there today at the moment. Early part of a Grand Tour. Yes, we had a flight to overcome yesterday. A lot of people will have been out on the bikes spinning though yesterday afternoon. And of course not much riding being done so far today, so there'll be fresher legs, stronger trains, and of course those sprinters might be a bit more of a level playing field after not much racing today. Be much more interesting and open sprint than the one that we've certainly seen so far. Riding at the back for Frances Desjeux, Francis Mouret. There's Jussi Väikkönen as well. They'll be looking to Murilo Fischer and Sebastian Chavanel to try and set up Nasser Bouhanni. And you can tell how much the pace has increased. A kilometre to go, Barrier and Banner, pardon me, on the left-hand side. Is changing rather quickly now. Now, Nasser Bouhanni, after all the messing about earlier on today, all the times he could have had a problem to go back to the car, he's now desperately trying to fight himself on, and he won't want this because this is some expenditure of effort that he won't need so soon before a big effort's needed to the line, Sean.
No, it's not a good time to be out the rear. For what reason we haven't seen. He hasn't got any frame number on his bike, so has he made a bike change there? It looks like he has, and so late in the stage having a mechanical problem is not the it's not a good time at all, because we can see the peloton, the way it's stretched out here now. When he makes contact to the rear end of the peloton to get all the way to the front, it's going to take a big effort, and he is going to pay for this effort to get to the front of affairs.
Well, it's funny, we just saw Francis Mouret and a couple of other riders, Jussi Väikkönen, one of those, coming back to the peloton before we saw the shot of Bouhanni, Sean, and now we see why. Laurent Pichon comes back as well. It looks as though the whole team en masse has come back to escort Bouhanni. It's a bit of panic they didn't need on what should have been, certainly in terms of having the team together, looking after their man on that final lap. Should have been the easiest day so far for them. Well, They're going to have a task here. The race is about to be on, we understand. Through that final bell, GC times will be taken. Anybody who doesn't want to get involved in any of the fighting to get to the front can then work their way in without losing time, and we can contest this stage into Bari. The crowd can have some action, and you can see the commissar on the left-hand side just telling Pichon the rest to get out of the way of the slipstream of their own car. Again, Sean, you would have seen this not particularly punished if it was another team's car, but it's their own team car. Buoni really is risking a big fine here at the end of the day.
Yes, well, he's taking the risk, and the director sportif is pushing it as well, but we can see there his teammate also has seemed a mechanical problem at the moment. It is going to be difficult to see Buoni making it all the way to the front, and if he does, the effort he's going to have to put in. Although if he gets onto the peloton here, we can see it's still very much grouped together, so they're not going as they normally would coming into, you know, to 12 kilometers to finish. They would be going at a very, very fast pace here, but it's not the case. They have changed car now, so they've got a new pacemaker.
Bardiani helping them out. In fact, it's Belkin, pardon me, another of the green teams. Bit of cross-border friendliness between the Dutch and the French.
And Buoni doesn't look comfortable. He seems to be struggling there to stay in the slipstream of his teammate, although they are going at, you know, probably quite a good rate, but still his teammate looks comfortable than he is, and the reason being back, surprisingly we did not see what the problem was, but we can see that he hasn't got a frame number on the bike, so looks like he had to change a bike at a very, very bad moment.
Penultimate passage around Bari Castle, 11.4 kilometers to go. Belkin helping Francis Deschamps get Buoni back. It's interesting as well, Belkin don't really have a big sprinter for this finale. Yet Sabol is probably their fastest man, so perhaps buying a bit of goodwill for the rest of the Giro there, Sean.
Yes, that's true. If there's a team that have a sprinter up there, I don't think they'll be as helpful to Buoni.
At the front, it's Peter Veining, the Dutchman who takes over for the Australian team. Orica Greenedge. We're seeing them a little more strung out than they were. BMC up the front, wanted to keep Cadel Evans very, very close to the front. He's the third wheel there, the Australian former Tour de France winner. And remember, his aim is to get across the line, hear the bell ring. What do you think is going to happen with the GC hopefuls here, Sean? Are they just going to get out the way as soon as the bell rings?
Well, I think they will you know, not really get involved in the action, get over the line here, the penultimate time, and start to slip back through the peloton, and yeah, not really get involved, because it will be very, very aggressive here. The moment they go into the final lap, you know, they will be taking a lot of risk, and none of the general classification men are going to get involved in that.
Interesting, we saw Francis Deschamps right behind the Astana car there. Sky off to the right-hand side, they don't want to give them any assistance. Astana don't have a sprinter either. Interesting that that should happen. They almost made it back on, but remember as well, they want to make it back on before the bell goes. Hence the reason they won't have the entire team escorting Buoni here, because any guys they've got hopes of slipping into the top 20 overall, they don't want to lose any time when the bell goes. Pichon is the man right in front of Buoni. Also up there seems to be Arnaud Courtet, who is already a good 7 minutes back on GC, so no problems for him. Orica Greenedge wanted to keep Michael Matthews in the pink jersey. Chat with the directeur sportif. Be careful, calm down, watch out. Doesn't want any unfortunate incidents. Past they go. Commissaire's car's moving out the way. They go swiftly, quickly behind the motorbikes to get a second or two or something around that corner. And now it's the camera motorbike that is probably being screamed at over the race radio to get out the way. And they're on the back of the peloton. 9.2 Ks to go. Sean, how much has that taken out of them, though?
Well, I think it's going to take a fair bit of his edge off here, and we can see there's a number of the Francis Deschamps riders hanging on the Rio now, and the job is now to start moving up in the peloton and get Buoni into a good position, and he would have been fancying his chances for this sprint big time, because a very, very technical one, a short stage as we mentioned earlier, but unfortunately the mechanical at a very bad time.
General classification boys all up the front. They want to get across the line, take this bell now. They will take their general classification times for the day off the bell. Everybody lined out, everybody coming across together. They don't want any splits here. And then that will be safety as far as they're concerned. And we can see this stage played out now in terms of who's going to win it. It gets darker again, the rain clouds come closer, but we are going to see some racing on this last lap. The bell rings, Orica Greenedge come across at the front, Michael Matthews. Unless Alessandro Petacchi picks up a win today, well, he will be in pink. In fact, we're hearing no time bonuses on the line anyway, so there should be no change as far as the overall anyway. Just points on the line, so Matthews will remain in pink. Everybody's got to cross the line, no time splits. No GC boys have to worry about it here. I just see the back of the peloton come across to make sure that there's no real gaps. Doesn't look like it at all. So that's the first part of the day sorted, Sean. Everybody's safe. No real problems in terms of anybody losing the Giro d'Italia on a day like this. It's all about the stage finish now.
Yes, all about the stage, and we will see what will happen. Greenedge keeping the pace very high.
7.6 kilometres to go. The bell has gone, and after a neutralised day, we're going to have some racing on this final lap circuit around Bari. Sit yourselves down, strap yourselves in. This is going to be fast. Michael Matthews still at the front. Remember, now having secured his pink jersey, he wants to win the stage today. Alessandro Petacchi still keeping the quick-step rider Uran safe. Is he going to have a go himself? That is the question. Maglia Rosa group, yes, it is the only group out on the road. We've had no attacks today. Of course, none have been allowed. Garmin are there. Can Tyler Farah do something? Davide Apolloni will be the man to watch for Agility Mondial. Manuel Belletti for Androni. Has he recovered from his nasty laceration on the knee the other day? That is the question. It's technical. We've seen the circuit several times. The roads, albeit drying out in certain sections, are still pretty slippy going into the finale. It's going to be an interesting one to watch, and as Sean earlier said, there will be perhaps a little bit bigger field, pardon me, contesting the end of this race than we might have seen if it had been raced very, very hard all the way through. Sky on the left-hand side did a very good lead-out the other day, didn't he, for Ben Swift? Does he have the speed now that Kittel, pardon me, isn't there?
Well, I think Ben Swift, he had a great sprint in Dublin. Unfortunately, Kittel was just so strong that he overcame him in the final metres. If they can do the same job as they did on the stage in Dublin, well, I think Swift is capable of getting a stage victory here. The question is, Michael Matthews, he's very much at the front there. Is he going to be prepared to take the risk? I doubt it, because if you want to go for this sprint, you have to take a lot of risk, and the danger of coming down there getting an injury with the pink gels in his shoulders, I don't think he will risk that one.
Cannondale looking for success for Elia Viviani. Up there in the intermediate sprint earlier for the points jersey. Ben Swift not involved there, so unless he does something big in terms of a lot of points on the line here, then he may well not be in red tomorrow. He's not in red at the minute. Don't particularly think that he was there in time to put the red jersey on, or there was time to stamp the Sky sponsor on, because Kittel pulled out just minutes before the start of the stage. They're obviously trying to see in the Argos camp if he could recover in time, or I should say the Giant camp now. You're starting to see a few of the guys who don't want to be involved to take any risk come out the back here. Rubiano is one of them in the Colombian national champions jersey, and you accept and expect quite a few of the other GC guys to it. You can see wet roads again here. We've seen dry roads earlier on. Past the team cars they go, 5.2 kilometres to go. And here's the sprint again. It looks as though Mezget's had this in the bag. Had a little problem with his gears and with cornering there. Mezget's went. In fact, pardon me, no, it wasn't Mezget's. He was still behind his lead-out man. It was the lead-out man of Mezget's that went there. Cameras didn't quite catch that live. The man who's sprinting for Giant is actually Tom Velas. Velas takes it on very, very early. Bouhanni comes quickly around. The man gaining is Nizzolo. Nizzolo's going to get second place. Tom Velas, no wonder he was so tired, because he was the man supposed to be doing the lead out. Mezget's getting stuck with his gears around the corner, and Bouhanni taking it. in bizarre conditions. A very, very strange day all round.
Yes, certainly a very strange day, and what a slippery street in the end. We could see that they just got a little shower in the final kilometres there, and the moment they got that, it was like ice.
And again, don't really want to say I told you so, but to anybody who is doubting the fortitude of these riders getting out on their bikes, unfortunately, we've had a nasty illustration at the end there with several riders going down. We hope that Jetsapol's okay. And all those who did the negotiating, the peloton, you have to say, well done. Cool heads have prevailed, and hopefully we've avoided any serious injury today. No splits on the GC, no time bonuses, we are told, but points and a win for Nasser Bouhanni. How does it feel, that first win on a Grand Tour?
Well, we could see him earlier on that he wasn't happy when there were talk of maybe not racing, and having the mechanical problem in the end. It looked difficult that he would make it all the way to the front. I think the conditions helped him a bit, and we see again there as he went into the final corner, he started to put on the power a bit. There was a slide, the back wheel started to slide about, but was able to hold it upright, and that's a talent some of those guys have got. They can just, you know, when you start sliding on the weight, it's so difficult to correct it, but we can see here how slippy it was. They just went down and went all directions.
And Bouhanni having to dodge that crash, go the long way around as Enrico Gasparotto hit the floor. Kenny Haas stayed up. It was one of his lead-out men that went down. Sky out the way. Ben Swift not able to contest. It was Bouhanni. Again, camera cutting around the corner, so we assume that Mezgets had got beyond his lead-out man when in fact he had the gear problem on the overhead there. Velas having to try and sprint, and how difficult is that when you're trying to lead somebody out? Really haven't got anything less for the sprint. He did his best, but we now understand why that sprint just couldn't last it against Bouhanni.
Yes, well, when you're leading out, of course, and you're on the front for quite a while, and that was the case for Villers. He was on there too long, and I presume that he got the call from his sprinter just to go for it, and he had to take it up a long ways out. And Bouhanni really doing a good job, and we could see at the end there he was totally empty with the big effort.
We're here
pink jersey wearer,
with
Michael Matthews.
Michael, another day in pink, but tell us what was going on out there today. A little bit of confusion from a spectator point of view, I think.
Yeah, from the start, it was really slippery roads, and straight away everyone had a chat in the bunch, and we decided to really neutralise the race, just for the safety for us. And it's a long tour, so we have to do what we got to do to get through these long stage races as safe as possible.
Can you just very quickly explain the differences between the rain and the circuit here compared to what you took on in Ireland on the first stages?
I think it's totally different. Ireland is a country that always rains, so the roads there are definitely used of the weather conditions changing all the time. And here in the south of Italy, it's don't get much rain here, so the roads and the cities aren't really used to these weather conditions. So it was just the safest thing to do today was just to neutralise the race.
Thank you very much.
Nice and eloquently put by Michael Matthews. Unfortunately, we had an illustration of that on the way in. Finally, the day has ended. It's been an eventful day in Bari. This is the overall standing. It's as we were. Race neutralised on the way in. No gaps on GC as the times were taken with 1 lap to go. That means Michael Matthews leads the Giro d'Italia by 8 seconds ahead of Alessandro Petacchi and Daniel Oss. We're yet to get to the hills, hence domination of the sprinters for the moment.